there. Welcome to the 27th episode of the Burress Law Life and Friends podcast. I'm your host, Jason Burress, and today I have a very special guest, Maylee Thomas-Fuller. How are you?
I'm good. It's just so nice to have you on the other end now.
I know.
Feeding me questions.
Right. You're usually doing this with others. We'll get into the radio show, but let's start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Well, I'm a Texas girl that was born in Houston, Texas, but my parents moved to Florida, up in the panhandle of Florida there at Pensacola Beach when I was 2. So I spent 15 years on the beach, and that's kind of where I got my whole little hippie vibe from, because I was just a little barefoot hippie girl that surfed and enjoyed all of the things that a beach has to offer. And as you know, most Texans love to go to that area, Destin, Fort Walton, Pensacola. So that's where I kind of really learned about life, and which I'm grateful for, because it was a very easy time back then in the 60s and 70s.
When did you first develop a love for music?
Oh, very, very early on. My grandparents on my mother's side, they were all entertainers, and I grew up around that kind of whole, vibe. So I think I was 6 or 7 years old. I did a rendition of These Boots Are Made for Walking in the living room and passed a hat and made about $1.70 and thought, this is what I want to do.
Do you play any instruments?
I play a little bit of piano. I played in college and in bands outside of college, and then I picked up guitar a little bit later on. But boy, after being with people like Andy Timmons and of course my husband George and the prolific players that I'm around because of the Guitar Sanctuary, I was like, no way. I'll let them all do that. I'll just every once in a while I'll pick up a guitar and play some rhythm. But I've got so many fabulous, and people around me at any kind of beck and call. So it's like, I like the freedom of being able to move around the stage. Of course, if you've seen me play, you know how I do that.
Of course. At what age did you start your first band?
Oh, I was in high school. So I was probably about 14, 15. And I played in 2 different bands in high school and found out that was a great way to go through school. I got hooked up with the school board. One of the people on the school board really took a liking to me, and it was so fun because every opportunity that he could find to plug in our band, he would, and I'd get out of school to go play all these events and get extra credit. It's like, this is a way to go.
So when you finished high school, did you do the traditional route of college, or did you just keep going with the band thing?
Yeah, I actually went to college. You're going to probably be shocked at this. I actually went to a Bible college, and I traveled with a band called Maranatha, and we traveled overseas. It was a great way to see the world, not have to pay for it, and so I did that for about 3.5 years, and then from there just explored all kinds of different kinds of music, because I started out singing in bands, doing a lot of pop and, just the top 40 kind of stuff. Started writing a little bit when I was in high school. Boy, I look back at some of those songs and think, oh, those poor people that had to listen to that. But, and then from there, I did the gospel kind of Christian music thing, and then from there added a lot of different kind of genres and went on to form a band when I moved back to Dallas. And
what age were you when you moved back to Dallas?
I was in my mid-20s, and I'd already done a lot of touring and traveling before that, and came back here to be close to my parents and started a band. Actually was background singer in 2 or 3 bands and got to know a lot of different musicians that way, and then started my own band. And of course I hired my husband George to be in my band as a guitar player, and in true George form, he kind of got in and took over. And he's been trying to change the band to his name for 32 years, but he's the only one on the petition.
So maybe a silly question, but what type of music do you play and sing? I mean, what would you call it?
Well, I feel like in today's world, it's so hard because there's people that I think are just entertainers, and they can do all kinds of genres of music. And that's how I always felt that I was. I mean, I started out playing certainly in a lot of clubs and playing a lot of country, pop, rock, soul music. In today's market, we used to have stations that played across the board music. And I hate to pigeonhole artists. And when I interview people all the time, I say, listen, I know that, you have a genre of music that maybe you prefer or that you think that you prefer, but tell me what you like to do. And it's interesting because most people will say, well, I don't want to be pigeonholed to just one style of music. And we're finding that now. We're seeing a lot of country artists that are, crossing over and vice versa. But I think probably when people ask me what do I do the most, it's kind of like a kind of a soul rock with a little bit of country vibe to it once in a while. I mean, the country vibe really comes more from George because he really loves country music.
And I had that on my list. The rumor is that George likes country music more than you do. So that's true.
Yeah, that old adage. I don't remember who the couple was, but he's a little bit country and I'm a little bit rock and roll.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's like.
And are you still a writer?
Oh, yeah. George and I write probably most of all of our original tunes. I have collaborated with a lot of other people like John Christopher Davis and Andy Timmons, and I wrote a whole record together. But I think as a whole, most of the original music that we do, I'll come up with an idea, a hook. He'll come up with some music, ideas, and we'll just collaborate and then come back and forth. And sometimes the songs come quickly, and sometimes we have to go back. And just revisit them because we feel like we hit a wall.
Where do you like to write?
Where? Honestly, we've written some of our best songs in bed. Like wake up in the morning with an idea that we had during the night. I get a lot of songs in my dreams. And I used to have a pad next to me years ago. Of course, now it's so great having these smartphones because you can literally just pick it up and sing the line in there and then go back to sleep. And I've had to start doing that because I always think I'm going to remember it in the morning and then I don't. So it's, smartphones have really changed the way people write. Well, with the way they do anything creative. Of course, now with all the creative stuff that's being done by computers, it's kind of scary.
Sure, yeah.
People are writing songs and don't know anything about music at all, just talking into their phone and telling CI to do it.
That's crazy to me.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. So you and George have been together since the early 90s, is that right?
Yeah, we've been playing music together for 32 years.
32 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it is a long time. And you all have I guess the term is a blended family, right?
Totally.
And so how many kids do you all have between you?
So we've got 4 children and 2 grandchildren.
Okay.
When I met George Austin, his son was a year old.
Okay.
And so he's been in my life since he was 1. And then we have 2 biological children, Rain and Layla. And then, of course, we adopted a little girl from Africa when she was 9 years old. And that's Millie, who's now 25. So we've got a lot of, I'm a stepmom, I'm an adopted mom, and a biological mom all in one family. And it's been quite a ride. I'm so grateful that I did that because I know a lot of my musician friends that missed out on that. I'm just so glad I didn't.
Well, it seems like the music life can be a little hard. My impression is you guys have been gone quite a bit on nights and weekends. And so, like, from the kids' perspective, what kind of cost was paid as a result of y'all being out nights and weekends type of thing? Or did they just come with you? Well,
a lot of times they did come with us. And I tell this story a lot. I made a very purposeful decision years ago when I actually was told I couldn't get pregnant, which is funny. You don't know that, but it was a surprise. My doctor told me if you ever want to have kids, you're going to probably have to do some kind of in vitro or something because I only had one working ovary, and so getting pregnant was a big shock for George and I both. We already had Austin, my stepson. But when I had my first child, I made a very important decision in my life that I wanted to be a present mom. So we worked it out where, most of the time, as you know, we were playing gigs late at night. So the kids were, going down for bed, and we'd leave, or we'd take them with us. And I just didn't want to miss out on that. And I had an opportunity at one time to go to Nashville and, see about making things work there. But I would have had to leave my kids. And I just decided that's not the life I wanted. I knew at the end of my life, I could see myself regretting not being there for my kids, and I didn't want to do that. I've always thought that music was very important in my life, but family to me was number one, and I wanted to be the present mom.
Well, I think that may have answered one of my questions, because over the years, I've heard so many people, a lot of musicians say that, Maylee has all the talent in the world to have been a national or international star. And while you've been very successful in Texas and especially, locally, I was wondering, why do you believe that you didn't or haven't obtained that level of success, like on a national stage or something? And maybe that's it, that purposeful decision.
With that, and as I've gotten older, I realized that, and I interview people all the time, as you know, because I have that in my radio show and podcast with Texas musicians and artists, and a lot of them always say, well, when I make it, or when I do this, or when I get there. And I stop them and I say, hey, are you playing music for people? Do they come out to see you? Are you enjoying yourself? What are you waiting for? You've made it. There's a lot of people that never even get to that level. Mm-hmm. And for me, I love the anonymity, Jason. I mean, I look at what people go through in their life that have, reached that kind of level of stardom, you might call it. They're being followed around all the time. And believe me, I am a major target. I could be plastered on the front of Inquirer every single week with the most ridiculous pictures. And I'm just so grateful that I don't have that. But I still get to do what I enjoy. I mean, I love playing music, and I don't play any different to the crowds that I play to now than I would if I was playing to 100,000 people. I think the biggest crowd we ever played to was about 50,000 people, and it was in Austin for an event that we opened for Hank Williams Jr. And I remember walking off that stage, and as much as it was a thrill, it was the same feeling that I get whenever I sing to, 100 or 500 or 1,000. I lay it all out there regardless. And so, again, I know we feed off of a crowd, but I actually feed off the energy of my band too. And if we're all on and we're all having a good time, it just doesn't matter if there's, that big of a crowd or not. We're still going to have fun and enjoy what we do.
Yeah. So how are you in the band? Like, are you like a taskmaster when something's not right? I mean, are you the one who's like stepping in, or is it George?
That would be George.
Okay.
I am, I'm so easygoing. My whole thing has always been attitude. I would take a really great attitude player over proficiency every day. And I have, and we have. We've had, a lot of different people come in and out of the band in the years, and most of the time, sometimes it's predicated on the fact that they just can't be gone that much, or they don't want to play that much. It's hard on spouses when you play in a band and you're playing every single weekend and you're not being able to do things with your family or wife. And if they're not into it, it can be detrimental. And we've watched a lot of marriages just, go down the tubes because of it. But I think for me, I'm just so grateful that I have a band of guys that are doing it because they love it. None of them have an attitude anymore. We're all up there because we just enjoy what we do. And they're very good musicians. They're all really good musicians. And as you know, Jason, and I know, we run across this all the time, we've got some phenomenal people that play in local bands.
Oh, for sure.
And it's not about the talent. and where they are, where they end up. It's really not about the talent. It's about decisions they make and luck and money that gets behind them, the machine that gets behind them. We see these young kids that, somebody gets behind them and pushes them into stardom. And I'll never forget, you're going to laugh about this story, but it's true. Remember Milli Vanilli?
Yes.
So I had a very good friend of mine that was dating their tour manager. And they were doing a big stint here in Dallas, actually, in the 80s. And I got to meet them backstage after their show. And we sat up in a room, and my girlfriend says, "Oh, my friend here is a singer. Why don't you guys sing something?" And I started singing a little bit of something, and they were sitting next to me. And I left that room, and I said to her, "They're not very good singers." And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I can't imagine. They must be really tweaking that stuff on stage because they're really not very good singers." And she's laughing at me going, "Really? That's what you're going to say about Milli Vanilli, the biggest hit duo right now, MTV was just really pushing them." 3 months later, it all came out that a lot of that stuff was, plugged in, and they weren't actually singing live and tweaking that. And she just started laughing. She goes, I said, "Well, that's kind of the machine."
Yeah, and I remember it like it was yesterday. We were best friends, and I were with my grandmother, and we were down in Galveston, and that was the song that was playing, and we were singing along like everybody else. And in a second, it dried up when that came out, because at the time, at least, you couldn't be a fraud. But now I've got some questions. I play around a little bit, but all these singers they seem to have the an earpiece in. What in the heck is in that earpiece? What's going on?
Well, most of the time, that's their monitor now. Okay. So, I grew up where everything, and of course, I've got ear damage because of it, but all of our monitors are on the stage. And so they're blowing back. So you've got all the sound coming from the back, your stage volume, which is your amps and everybody that's playing through that. And then you've got your stage volume, which is coming through a monitor. So it's your vocals and whatever other mix that you want. Well, they've determined now that it helps singers. It's always helpful to hear yourself, right? To know whether you're on pitch or not. I prefer hearing the band behind me. I've used in-ears before, and for one thing, you've seen me, how crazy I am. I'm throwing my head around and all kinds of things. I've had those things pop out before. Okay. But most of the time, they're playing your voice in their ear, and whatever mix that you want. If you want keyboards or guitar or something to help you, that's usually what they do. But there have been times where people are talking to them and feeding them lyrics, which that would be nice, But most of the time, you see people with in-ears, they're using it as a monitor.
So it's not like a prior recording that you're singing to. No, it's just you're hearing your live voice in your own ear, so that I got it. Yeah, I always wondered about that because and I don't remember, I don't ever remember seeing Willie doing that.
Well, this is all new technology that's come up in the last couple of decades, and a lot of times now, if you look on a stage, for years, you saw all these big monitors at the front of this concert stage, and you still see them there. I still prefer wedges. You call them floor wedges. But a lot of people now are using the in-ears just to get rid of everything on the stage, too. And they can control, the sound guy can control everything. Of course, we have these packs now. So most of these people that wear these in-ears, they have a little pack. They can control the volume as to what goes in and out, how high or how low it is in their headset.
Well, that's handy.
Yeah.
So along the way, 30-something years of making good music with George, who are some of the coolest or most interesting people that y'all have met?
Well, I'm sure you know the story. I think probably one of the funnest times in our life was when we played with Clarence Clemens, who was the sax player with the E Street Band. We met him right after Bruce had gone solo. And so he let the E Street Band go. And so they were all struggling to find something to do. And Clarence was doing some acting at the time and all kinds of fun stuff like that. I see him in several movies because he's passed away now, but it's fun to realize that we got to know him at a time when he was really branching out to do other things. He started playing with our band for probably a good 10 or 12 years when he was off the road with Bruce. But he played with us for 3 or 4 years pretty consistently early on in the 90s, which that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, when they got the band back together and E Street started touring with him, it was fun for me to see that level of entertainment. And still today, I mean, Bruce is probably one of the biggest concerts that you can go to. And the guy puts on an incredible show. I don't know if you've ever been to one of his shows. I have to give George kudos on this because I was probably just one of those people that listened to the hit songs that he had in the late 80s, you know, and that doesn't even scratch the surface on what Bruce does. He's such a prolific writer. But I think probably for me, what I'm most impressed by is the 3.5 to 4 hour shows that he gets on stage and never leaves.
Yeah,
and he does that time and time again. It's insane.
That's really impressive.
It's insane.
Transitioning a bit, you guys built the Guitar Sanctuary venue about 10 years ago because you're right next to me, and I know I built about 10 or 11 years ago.
Yep.
Do you wish you would have done that sooner?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think probably for us, it was just the right time because our lives, as you know, with everything that we have going on between the band and our foundation and Guitar Sanctuary and the mayor stuff and George's building career, I think we probably would not have been able to put the time into it just with the kids, you know. We opened that store up also at a time whenever Guitar Center was going kind of down, and we got to pick up a lot of lines that would have been more difficult to do had it been in the peak time of Guitar Center. And so I think it was probably perfect timing. It was, you know, when everybody else said it's the worst time to do it, George had a keen eye on realizing, well, if I'm going to do this and be able to compete against some of these big box people, I need to be able to get the lines that I want to get. And so he did it right at the right time where he was able to do that.
Got it. Has the online craze, has that hurt like selling guitars in a retail store?
Oh, I don't think it's a secret that anytime the manufacturers are selling direct and kind of pushing out that middle guy, which is who we are, it's going to hurt. But I think there's still a lot of people out there that want to talk to musicians or other people, players that they can ask questions about, or they can actually come in. And I know for me, if I'm going to make that kind of a purchase, I want to talk to somebody that actually really knows about that instrument. And that's what we've always had at the Guitar Sanctuary, and I appreciate that. Our guys don't make commissions on sales. We pay them really well, and we tell them we want the customer to get what they want, not what we feel you need to sell to, you know, make a quota.
See, I totally agree. I happened to be in the Guitar Sanctuary maybe a month ago and made some pretty big purchases. There was a guitar. And then there was an amp, and there was music stands and microphones and microphone stands, and I'm telling you, I mean, you know, I'm not an expert at this by any means, and I mean, Brian is in there, and he says, you know, this guitar, you know, which I was looking at is you know, not going to really give you the sound that you're looking for because you're looking to do this type of music. And this amplifier goes really well with this. And then, by the way, let me help you get it tuned just right and show you how to work this thing. And then after all that, get it home, set it all up. And do you know what question I have to call him and ask him? Actually, I didn't talk to him because he was with a customer. Somebody else at the store says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Well, maybe." And I said, "I'm just kind of embarrassed." And I said, "Can I just send you a text message of a picture of the amp?" And yeah, you can. And I said, I can't figure out where to plug in the cord from the guitar. And I go, I'm frustrated. And before I say that I don't have the right cord, I just need you to look at it. He looks at it and he's like, it's on top. Like, and I'm just telling you, like if you go buy something online and you go save a couple $100, I mean, you got nobody to call, nobody to help, and those guys would have even come out and helped me if I couldn't have figured it out. But that's a big deal, you know. That service is
well, and just knowing that these guys really do know their stuff, and you come in. They've been with us for years, and we've got guys that all they do, we call them gearheads. All they do is just read about what's the latest. How are you going to get the most out of this amplifier or guitar? And I know for me, that's worth a lot. I'd much rather have somebody that's actually proficient at the instrument and can help me and put it in layman's terms too. That's the other part, Yeah.
So clothing line, I know there's I know you sell clothes.
Well, and that was me, because for years, you can imagine being married to George, and he's so into guitars and all the latest and greatest, as well as vintage as well. But we never went into a city that we didn't go into a guitar store. And after about 30 minutes or so, I'd be like, dude, if we ever open a guitar store, we have to have something for the wives and the girlfriends, because they'll hang out longer, and we won't be bored, and we won't be, upset that you want to go to a guitar store. Yeah. So as you know, I have the Love Life Foundation, and it helps at-risk women and children. And I've always been into clothing. I worked at the World Trade Center when I was, first started out in the band to make extra money, because I wasn't making enough to live on. And so I ran showrooms. I knew a lot about clothing and all that. So I knew that when we ever opened a store, I wanted to do that. And I thought, what better way to do it than to have it fund our nonprofit? So you can feel good about it. And I know social purpose buying is really big right now, especially, with women. We know that if we're going to have to make a purchase anyway, if we know that purchase also goes to help something, we're going to be more apt to buy that brand. At least I am. And so that's what we did. And so we have the Love Life Market inside the Guitar Sanctuary that helps fund our Love Life Foundation. And also it makes it fun. The guys always say it's really helps them, because the wives and girlfriends come in and they're immediately drawn to that, while, their boyfriends or husbands can go over and tinker with the guitars and gear. And so.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
The foundation, I know we're about 31 years into the Love Life Foundation. So again, just to reset, what does it do? Who does it support?
So we started this basically out of a desire as musicians to do something for some nonprofits in the area. And I'll be honest with you, what really was the impetus for George and I was we were part of some big events, and I was always a numbers girl. I would be a part of a huge event, and I'd find out that out of the $120,000 that was raised, $20,000 of it went to the beneficiary, because they had so much expenses. And I thought, I want to change that. I want to make it where, most everything that we raise goes towards the beneficiary. And I knew musicians and friends that had a heart for giving, and so I put something together, and we had our very first event at a club, and it was the worst night ever. We had a sleet storm that kept people from being on the road, but we still went ahead and did it. I think, so it was in 1992, in December of 1992, we raised $3,800, and every dime of that went to help these single moms that were in a home, that were living together and trying to raise these babies. And from there, that's how we just expanded the Love Life Foundation. That was 32 years ago, which is crazy, 31 years ago. But one of the things that I want to say, and I would say this whether it's you or not, one of the beautiful things about Burress and your family foundation and what you do, because you've been supporting Love Life Foundation for a lot of years. You have these fundraisers and you pay for all of the expenses, and then all the sponsorship and all of the money that you take in goes to these beneficiaries. And that's huge, Jason. I just want to say how much I appreciate your vision for making this something where we want to give, because we know our money is going to the beneficiaries and not to pad something that is a huge expense. And don't get me wrong, I know these events are expensive to put on. And I know there's other people out there that are probably cringing right now knowing that, they have to use a lot of those funds to put on the event.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate knowing how hard you work at making sure that when you ask people for money towards these beneficiaries that you raise money for every year, it's going directly to them. And as a result, we love being a part of everything that you put on, and I appreciate you supporting Love Life Foundation as you have.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and it really does deserve a response, because I do agree with you that, so in our case, so far I think we've got $20,000 or so in sponsorships for our 12th annual picnic coming up on September 30th. All 20,000 of that will go directly to the beneficiaries. None of that goes to pay bands, to pay the stage, to pay for food. None of that goes to that. All donations go to the beneficiaries, and then we'll do a matching gift on top of that. So it's, when you look at it as a foundation, it's so pristine, because more than 100% of the donations go to the beneficiaries. So that's a great thing. But by the same token, we should be doing that. We have a very successful law firm, and that enables us to do those things. And there's some great charitable nonprofit organizations out there that don't have an engine like we happen to have. And I think it's okay if you raise $200,000 and $140,000 goes to the beneficiaries. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not trying to foundation or nonprofit shame anyone, but it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy, and I saw this while sitting on the CDC board a decade ago. It drives me crazy when I see, this foundation or nonprofit has $100,000 in revenue, and $80,000 of it goes to the director and the benefits for the direct. I don't like that when you got 20% going to the beneficiary, and I'll never not say something about it. But there's a lot of really good nonprofits out there that they do have expenses, and they have to get those paid, and I get it. But for us, that was always just a non-starter, that like everything we do, has to go to the beneficiaries. And I love it. For
probably 27, 28 years, we were a completely all volunteer run machine. And it was a full-time job for me. And only recently have we actually taken on paying somebody out of the foundation to do things. And we've just gotten to the place where I just told George, we just have to. I got to the place where it was just too much. I couldn't do it all alone. And I've got a lot of volunteers that have been a part of this for years and years and years, and they all agreed. They said, yes, we need to have somebody that we pay and get them going. And, of course, we've got some phenomenal people. One in particular.
Yeah. Because without it, the whole thing just suffers, and it doesn't, it's not as efficient, and it's hard. And so, and I've got help too. We're just at this point, we're making sure that the law firm pays all of those bills, and we've got some college students that help us, so we've got some advantages, but I just love what y'all have done, and I'm guessing at this point you've probably disseminated. You probably disseminated over $1 million.
Oh, way more than that. I think we're probably about $2.5 million now in the last 32 years that we've given out. And if you knew how real grassrooted that is, that's a big number. And of course, a lot of that too is my band plays so many events, and we don't get paid. We just do it out of love and appreciation. And we've gotten to the point now where I just look at the guys and go, we'll pay you out of our pocket if we need to, but we're doing this for free.
Right.
Well, speaking of that, I want to talk about your picnic, because I'm really looking forward to this, Jason. You've got a lineup this year that's crazy, and I don't know if people really understand. It's all free to the public, and they can all come and be a part of it. And I'm just so excited that once again we get to be there. You're bringing in an act from Kentucky, or where's Yarn from?
They're from Brooklyn. They're out of North Carolina.
Okay.
And they're called Yarn. They're played on 95.3 The Range, which, obviously you host a radio show on that station. But I think they're really good. Like if you want to look at Spotify or Amazon, go look up Sweet Dolly or Cocaine Bear, or there's a whole bunch of really great songs, but they're going to be great. I will tell you, the ink is not dry on the contract, so I'm waiting to get it signed. But we're expecting them to be. I've at least got a text message from the leader of the band saying we're going to blankety bring it. So I'm thinking they're going to be there. But we've got Austin Cunningham back for a 12th appearance. We have Songbird Jones. I'm super excited about them. Songbird played at TMR. He's great. We've got John Christopher Davis. We've got the Maylee Thomas Band, and then Yarn, and maybe a special guest.
I already know. I've heard there's a new band called Whiskey Dreamers that's going to make their debut, and I'm really excited about it. So I hope you guys do that, Jason. I don't know if you guys realize this. Jason's playing guitar now and singing, so we're hoping that we get to have a big debut, and that would be a lot of fun.
We need all attendees to drink a lot of whiskey before they hear us. That is for sure. But I'm fired up about it. It's going to be great. I think it's going to be our biggest picnic. Again, it's free. It's
September 30th starts at noon, right?
Yeah, September 30th at noon. It's free. We're serving. It's going to be a fantastic lunch. I think we're going to have like brisket and burgers. The police association is they're doing the smoking, and it's going to be amazing. We are going to have the snow cone truck in, so all the kids get their snow cone of choice, and the adults are going to get their snow cone of choice, which may be a little bit different than the kids.
It might be a little different.
All right, well let's finish with this. I want to know, you've been the first lady of McKinney for a while now, the wife.
Which is just so crazy.
Of the mayor.
I'm sure I can't even imagine. I'll tell one funny story, and I know this isn't a family show, I'll bleep out the actual verbiage. But everybody knows Rick Wells around here. He's been an iconic businessman in McKinney, starting with Rick's Chop House and Harvest. And I've known Rick literally since the early 90s, because he used to run a bunch of restaurant clubs that I played for all across the country. And so he knew, of course, that George was running for mayor and was very behind it, and knew me and knows that I'm just a hippie at heart. And so the night that we won, he called me up and he goes, well, it's about time they got a blankety hippie as a first lady in McKinney. I said, there's a lot of people out there going, you got to be kidding. But, honestly, my life didn't change at all as far as in the community, being the mayor's wife, other than I got to meet people that were in a different angle than I was in. Because, we've been here. This is our home. We made this our home. We moved here in 1992, and George started developing and building, and we've watched this place go from 32,000 people to now 210,000, and become named the number one place to live for many years in a row. I'm always in the top 3 in growth, right? Mm-hmm. We're kind of back and forth with Frisco all the time on that. But I think probably what I've enjoyed the most is I feel like this is my hometown now. Even though I didn't grow up here, my kids have, and this is our home. And I'm so proud that George and I have been able to be a small part of the exponential growth, and to see it still have that small town feel. I think, all the traveling that we've done, we have the best downtown of any place I've ever been to.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And again, it's still got that small town feel, but it has everything you need. Early on, you'd have to drive, to Dallas for entertainment. You don't have to go in, we have it all here.
We sure do.
We have outdoor venues. We have indoor venues. We're getting ready to have some incredible more entertainment complexes. We've got the District 121, Hub 121. We've got, we just got, the big new H-E-B store. We've got Market Street. We've got, when we moved here, we had one grocery store, Jason. One grocery store, Brookshire's up on the highway, and only fast food restaurants, one like Steak Country, I think, and I don't even know if it was really steak.
Waffle House.
We had the Waffle House. Yeah, we had Steak Country with the K.
All right, here's my question. George has done a good job. Y'all have done a good job, a really good job, especially on the culture, on the feeling. I mean, look, Frisco's fine. Nothing wrong with Frisco, but Frisco does not compare to McKinney in any way, shape, or form on just the culture, the downtown, the feeling. I mean, I'm sorry, it doesn't. I think a continuation of leadership, should at least be considered. Here's my question. Is there any chance whatsoever that you would run for McKinney mayor?
No. Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. It's because I think you would win it. I think you would win it very easily.
I'll be honest with you. There was a time where I actually thought about it, and I say that because, I've met a lot of women mayors in the last several years just because of what we've done and going to D.C. and meeting these people all across the country. And there's actually a husband and wife that the husband was the mayor of Las Vegas until he termed out, and then the wife ran. And the nice thing about it was he was still involved, which, I would love for George to be able to do that. But as you know, we have a 2-term limit here. Honestly, I don't want to be in that position because I don't really like the divisiveness that's been going on in our country and in our culture. And I'm the peace-loving, love everybody, bring people together person. And we have a culture right now that is just so divided, and I don't fit in. I don't fit in on either side. I'm the person that wants to put my arms out and bring everybody together and say, hey, I think ultimately we all want the same thing. And what makes life so beautiful is that we do it differently. I don't want to live in Pleasantville where everybody is exactly the same. I don't want to do that. But we've got these extremes on both sides that want their way and their way only. And that's not the world I want to live in, and that's not the world I want to propagate. So I would not be good at it because I'd be constantly telling each one of them that you're both wrong.
So I think, copy. The copy on these podcasts are important. When you put it out like that really matters. So what I'm thinking is Maylee Thomas has contemplated a mayoral run and sees herself as an agent of change to bring people together. I think that's going to be the copy.
You do that, and George is going to drop whatever he's doing and freak out.
We share AJ, so I mean, I can really instruct AJ to put that on copy. And
I think she knows better.
All right. So what about George? Are more politics in his future? Might he run for something else?
He certainly is being asked to on lots of levels, from regional to state to even the national level. And I think it's probably because people that recognize George as not being, he's not owned by anybody. And he really has only done this because he loved our community and he wanted to see it do better. And I think in the process, he realizes that he has a gift. He really does have a gift of bringing people to a place where they understand that maybe they need to be more open to accepting a little bit of something on one side to get this on the other. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's a give and take, and he does have a gift at it. He goes back and forth. There's days where he says, I'm definitely going to do this because I feel it. I know it's in me. I know I want to do it. I think probably for George, what he regrets the most is that he didn't start out earlier,
Yeah, sure.
And get to a place where he would have already kind of, gained more recognition and got to be in a higher position early on. At the same time, we're both love playing music. And I think he is looking forward to doing a little bit more of that because, we've definitely taken, the music's taken a little bit of a backseat to a lot of things that he's had to do with being the mayor. Because the one thing about George is he's present. The guy goes to everything. I mean,
for sure.
And especially if it has anything to do with children or the next generation, it's fun to see him speak to these kids and, and come home and be energized with what the next generation is going to be like, and I'm grateful for that. I recognize that George has a love for these kids, and knowing that he's imparting in them an idea that, hey, let's stop all this bickering and let's start bringing people together and making some real true change. So, I am going to tell you that I have told him over and over again, I will support whatever decision that you make, and I know that it'll come with a lot of prayer and a lot of thoughtfulness behind it. And it's still out there. I have no idea if he's going to do it or not, but I think he has a gift. I will say that.
All right. Last questions. These are quick hits, so give me some yes, no's. In 5 years, are you still living in McKinney?
We'll always have a place here.
All right. Well, that was a little bit of a mixed message. So
it's no secret that George and I both have a desire to have a place where when it's so hot we can get out of here.
Any place in mind?
Oh, we both love. I love the beach, and George loves the mountains. So, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So the beach.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I really am in a place now where I just want to go. I want to have a place. I want to have another place somewhere where the kids will say, yeah, we'd like to come and hang out there.
Great idea. All right. 5 years. Are you still involved in the Love Life charity?
Absolutely.
Are you still performing on stage?
Absolutely.
Are you still running the sanctuary?
Probably.
Right.
You never know. I mean, it's a lot.
Well,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. I'll bet.
It's a lot.
Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, but it's so funny that you say in 5 years will you still be playing. I think you and I both are huge fans of Willie Nelson, and the dude's still playing at 90.
Oh, for sure.
And and of course, I was a huge fan, still am, of Tina Turner. And, I watched her put on a show when she was 72 that blew my mind. And so, yeah, I'm going to be playing till I tell the story. I'll be playing till they throw dirt in my face. I'm going to be buried, not burned. I keep telling George that. And he's like, I don't know. It depends on who goes first.
I think that's great. And, whether you're 70, 80, Willie's now 90 and he just started to sit in the last couple of years on stage, which is, different. He now plays an hour, but at 90 years old, working on 91, that's really impressive. So I knew you would still be playing. But I was curious really about the other aspects. Hey, it's been a real pleasure. This has been fun. And, we hope you all enjoyed it. You've just heard from the next mayor of McKinney and the wife of Congressman Fuller. So we hope you've had a great listen or watch. And no, seriously, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks,
it's been really fun. And see y'all September 30th and see you on the next.
Absolutely. You guys don't want to miss it. It's such a great day and family fun. Great time to bring the kids out, which I love that about you too as well, Jason, is that you always make sure that that families can be a part of what you throw. And it's a beautiful thing.
Always. Enjoyed it.
Thanks.
See you next time.